Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is the 8th of July, 2020. It is a Wednesday. My name is Carey Holzman, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it is to be an MSP. We talk about the IT industry in prior videos and being an IT technician. And I want to talk to you a little bit about one of the career fields that you might consider if you're considering being self-employed or being in IT, and that is being a managed service provider or an MSP. You may see a lot of that buzzword in articles relating to IT work. And so I thought I'd take a minute just to explain what it is and why, as a business owner, you want to do this. You see, every business has an owner that has something that motivated them career-wise to work for themselves, whether they're a lawyer or a doctor or perhaps a contractor or a plumber, any type of service industry, real estate agent. It goes on and on and on, care provider, etc. And if they're successful and their business starts to grow and they need to hire people, then their needs for computing suddenly become a lot more complicated with regards to making sure the work that their employees are being paid to do is being backed up and secured properly, making sure that any customer data that may be, in the case of a dentist office or a doctor's office or a lawyer's office, may be very confidential personal information about your clients. You need to make sure that that's being properly secured so you're not putting your client's identity at risk. And you can't do everything. And while there are businesses where people will take care of their own computers, it's usually a fool who's a bad businessman who does that. And I'll tell you why. If you're a lawyer and you're like, I don't need to hire an IT guy because I can take care of my own antivirus, I can take care of my own Windows updates, I can install a printer, this isn't rocket science. But all of that is taking you away from being a lawyer, which I'm sure pays you better than whatever your time is worth sitting for hours doing computer maintenance, backups, and everything else. You're not really saving money. It's costing you money, because that's time you could be using to bill clients. And instead of paying a guy like me a fixed amount to take care of this for you, you've decided that you're going to take care of it yourself. It's not rocket science, and it's limiting how many hours you have left in your day to actually do the thing that is your career, the reason why you have your own business. And this gets even more complicated as they start adding employees. And a good business person will realize that if I can hire an employee, then I can hire somebody to take care of these computers. And I need to hire somebody who knows what they're doing, because this is pretty critical to my business. And for people who think it's an expense that's optional, I can't get on the same page with them, because if your business requires electricity, if your business requires a building that you're renting or owning or leasing, you're making payments on it, if your business requires insurance, if your business requires any form of advertising or marketing materials, these aren't optional items you just take care of yourself. Like, I'll just take a bunch of pens over from Walmart and I'll put stickers on them and I'll hand those out rather than pay a company to make, professionally labeled pens that I can give away as swag, or calendars or flashlight. That is so short-sighted and such a bad business plan. So what I offer to do for clients is say, let me take all of the computer stuff away from you. Let me make sure that your backups are being done and monitored. So many people make backups, but they never check them. They don't realize until they need it that the backup either is incomplete or it simply doesn't work. You want to talk about frustration. But hey, they saved money. Then there's security. There's antivirus. There's Windows updates. There's other software updates. There is malware, pop-ups. And now, thanks to Google Chrome, notifications, which customers call pop-ups. when you go to these websites and they say the website wants to send you messages or keep you updated, block or allow, people are hitting allow thinking they don't really understand. The general users don't really understand. They're allowing the website to add these little, what appear to be to the customer pop ups. So they open up Google Chrome, and all of a sudden, all these like advertisements or notifications of email, or every website they've ever been to. And I'm telling my customers, please click block. Stop clicking allow, click block. If you're not sure, click block. So what ends up happening is I have to log into their computers, and thankfully I can do this remotely, and it's a real easy service call. And I have to interpret, pop-ups means notifications, and then you can go in Chrome and just turn that feature off, which in my opinion was the worst feature Chrome ever added. It doesn't belong there. It's wildly abused. Customers have no idea that they're giving this thing permission, and it's a little hidden to find it to remove each one and then turn the damn thing off. But in the meantime, I can help prevent the problems from occurring by being a managed service provider. I can do the maintenance that helps prevent problems. And that's a difficult thing to sell sometimes as a self employed computer technician, where the customer says, we're paying you, but nothing ever breaks. So why are we paying you? And to the flip side, they could say, we're paying you, but things always break. So why are we paying you? So you're going to battle that. That is a delicate walk. And there's a great resource called technibble.com that can help guide you through the points to make to clients on why they should just turn over all of the computer technology infrastructure to you. You can bill them more money, have a regular income that you can count on, and have complete control over the network so you're not getting surprised. The other type of work you can do self-employed is called break fix. What break fix is, you're not breaking anything, but you're waiting for a client to call you after something has broken. And by then, they're typically in a hurry. They might have been living with this problem for some time and it's gotten worse to a point now where they can no longer ignore it and they're forced to have to call you and they don't want to spend the money or they don't want to spend the time. Whatever the reasoning is, they've been putting it off until they can't put it off anymore. And so they call you. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're self-employed and you're going after break fix, it means there's going to be days where your phone doesn't ring and days where your phone won't stop ringing. And there'll be days where customers will reach out to you that you haven't spoken to in over a year because they haven't needed you. And now so much neglect over the course of time has gotten so bad that instead of a quick solution, now you're going to be there for a while trying to untangle this mess, this techno mess, we want to call it that. Whether it's cleaning up temp files and missing Windows updates and, you know, all kinds of other updates from whether they have Adobe software or video drivers, printer drivers, BIOS updates maybe, just regular everyday maintenance. Scan it for malware, depending on how slow the machine is and how full it is. That in and of itself can take quite a while. Remove unnecessary, go through their ad remove, look in the programs, in other words, and the apps, remove things they don't need to have in there, clean the system, tune it up. It's been a long time. It's going to take a lot longer to get it back up to speed. And in the meantime, you run into this feast or famine situation where either you have no work or too much work. And then you wonder how you're going to pay your bills at the end of this month. Or you've done pretty good this month and now you don't feel like working. You're like, well, I can pay the bills, so, that customer, I don't hear from them but once every 2 years, so I don't really care, which is not good for business. But that's also, in my opinion, not a good business model. If you're starting out in IT as a part-time job, that's clearly the best way to do that. You can grab, what's that kind of work called? It's just little odd jobs, if you will, from smaller clients that are less demanding and are not going to call you regularly. And it starts you out part-time. Most of us in IT that are self-employed didn't just pull the trigger one day. In my case, I started working part-time, and the part-time work became full-time work, and I was able to quit my job when part-time became a bigger part. You know what I'm saying? And then I could focus more on getting more work when before I was at a job working an 8-hour day, and then well, with lunch it's a 9-hour day plus the travel back and forth is probably a 10, 11-hour day. But be that as it may, that's now time I can spend to start to find more customers. And you want to be an MSP. You want to provide a level of service that can guarantee an income for you. You say, okay, I'm going to maintain your computers, your antivirus, your backup, all your security. We're going to do offsite backups. We're going to, if you want, right now, a lot of people are working from home. I can set the office up and your employees up to work securely from home. Uh, you get a handful of clients like that. If you're just a single employee of your own company, you have 3 or 4 of those, and you'll be pretty busy all the time just on maintenance. I have one client that's got 12 computers in the office, and so when there's a Windows update, I got to put that Windows update on 12 computers. If there's a, they're all basically the same system, so if there's an Intel driver update, then I have to put that update on 12 systems. I have to repeat everything 12 times, and being able to do that after hours where it doesn't interfere with the employer's or employee's productivity. I can work remotely, so I'm not interfering, as I mentioned, and we're not gabbing and just, eating the clock. How are you? What did you do this weekend? I'm not there. They don't see me. But if you don't have those drivers and then you try to, I don't know, Windows 1909 comes out or whatever, 2004 comes out, find out it doesn't install properly because you have an old driver that's preventing it from installing correctly. And now you've got to solve a problem that was avoidable had the machine been properly maintained and updated and secured. Then the big Windows update would go without a hitch, and then you could remotely do all 12 at the same time. You could start one, log into the next one, start that one, and by the time you get to 12, come back around to the first one, and it may be waiting for you to hit next or need some user input to continue, and then it's busy work. You will keep yourself busy. And instead of wondering how much am I going to make today, you have a fixed amount. And you're able to tell your client, here's the benefit of choosing me to be an MSP instead of a break fix. If I'm break fix and you call me with a problem, I'm not going to prioritize you because why should I? I don't know when I'm going to hear from you. I'm not sitting by my phone staring at it, waiting for it to ring. How am I going to pay my bills? I'm sure you don't do that in your line of work. So when you call me, if you expect me to drop what I'm doing and come to you, I need you on a retainer. I need you to sort of um, pay for priority. Now, if you want to avoid those stressful situations where you're going to have to call me in a panic and this isn't working, then it will save you money to pay me, depending on how many systems they've got. I'll average it out what the maintenance is going to be, how many hours I'll have to spend on maintenance. Maintenance is Windows updates, deleting temp files, scanning for malware on a regular basis, and the whole monthly maintenance on all the computers. Then we want to back up the data. We want to back it up off site. We want to keep it secure. The more data you've got, the longer that takes, the more space it consumes, the more that costs. So each customer has unique needs. And depending on how often they want the backups, how much data are you willing to lose? In most cases, my clients are willing to lose up to 1 week of data based on what it's going to cost them if we back up more often than that versus what it would cost to recreate a week's worth of data in a worst case scenario. And it has to be explained to the customer so that the customer can tell you what they need. If the customer wants daily backups, we can do that, but it's going to cost 7 times more than weekly backups. On the other hand, if we do bi-weekly backups, the cost of recreating 2 weeks worth of data may be more than the cost of just doing it once a week. So there's an evaluation that the business owner, given all the information, pros and cons, costs, risks, and benefits, you guide them through that. And then you provide that service. And when they call you and they say jump, you say how high. And you over deliver and you make sure that they're happy and they have nothing to complain about. You kill them with kindness. If they have a problem that's not part of your contract, you deal with it because you want them to have no reason to leave. That's my philosophy. So if they've got a problem with their copy machine, I'm not a copy machine repair guy, but I'll take a look at it. The least I can do is take a look at it. And if you need a more immediate response, then I'll instruct them, that's not my line of work. I'm not a copy machine repairman. One of my customers had a problem with the company that does the stamps, where they can print their own stamps, and the machine wasn't connecting to their Wi-Fi, which they would only do maybe twice a year because they buy like $500 or $1,500 worth of stamps, and it wasn't connecting to the Wi-Fi, and they were calling me about it. I'm like, I've never seen one of these machines. I don't know why it's not connecting to the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi works great. I don't know what the problem is. And ended up having to bring out a guy from the manufacturer of that machine to identify the problem. But I did look at it and did the best I could, but I've never had a client with that piece of equipment before then or since. And they still have it. I think it's from stamps.com. I don't know. It might be, no, not stamps.com. There's a company that they do a lot of advertising for, people to have their own stamp machine. Big postal company here in the USA. Anyway, there's no shortage of technical people that work for this company. It's a very large company. And while I can appreciate that, I'm the easy guy to get a hold of. So no matter what your problem is, the phone's not working, the customer's immediate action is call Carey. And that's because I prioritize their call, and they don't have to wonder, what number do I call? Who do I call? Well, it's the copy machine. Who do we pay for the copier maintenance? Or it's the VoIP service. Who's our VoIP person? And sometimes I have to guide them. Sometimes my job is to do nothing more than to say, I'm sorry, that's not something I've ever done for you. And it's not that I don't want to, but I don't know how. It's not my career. It's not my line of experience or work. So to resolve this as quickly as possible, you need to contact those people. And if they need assistance in determining who those people are, of course, I'll do what I can. But the idea is that as far as your computers go, as far as your workstations, your monitors, your speakers, your mouse, your keyboard, your data, your critical data, I'm taking 100% responsibility for that. So the company doesn't have to pay about renewing their, if they have a domain, I'll take care of it. If they have, they're going to have some sort of paid antivirus, I'll pay for it. It's all included in my price. And then how often they pay me, if it's typically once every 3 months. Some customers like to go every 6 months. Some customers like to go monthly. I work with each customer to meet their needs. The monthly customers are usually the ones that are larger scale. So they're not going to write me this big giant check for 6 months of work. Instead, it's a lot of money for them to part with. And if they go monthly, I'm still getting paid the same amount in 6 months' time. So again, we're still working with the customers to meet the unique needs of the customer. And if you want to not stress out about how I'm going to pay bills, being self-employed in IT, I'm telling you from experience, you need to be a managed service provider. It's less stressful, it pays better and pays more regular. You're going to not have as many problems. You're going to have happier customers. And every once in a while, you're going to run into a customer who's going to think that they have an all-you-can-eat buffet for free technical support for their home computer or their kids' computers or their phones. And that's up to you to decide how you want to handle that. I have lost clients over the whole smartphone business. Like when I initially started becoming an MSP for a company, there were no smartphones. And as they got a smartphone and as their employees got smartphones, then they needed more IP addresses and they had more questions. How do I get my email on this thing? How can I do this on this thing? And I'm like, hey, hold on, I'm not a phone guy. It's not what I do. That's not what our contract was based on. They say, well, you're a computer guy, it's a computer. I go, well, yeah, but there's a computer in your car too. Am I supposed to fix that? There's a computer in everything. If I'm not fixing your television, that's not part of what I do. And when the relationship goes like that, it's very rarely recoverable. In fact, the sooner you can just agree to go separate ways, the sooner you can find somebody to replace them. And then you can start again, only now there are smartphones, and that can be part of your discussion. So one of the things in becoming an MSP where you can get yourself in trouble is you just keep renewing the same contract, doing the same job, but then something changes. And in this case, in 1999, we were we had one Wi-Fi device in the whole building. In 2020, one client can use as many as 115 IP addresses because they've got every printer on Wi-Fi, every employee's phone is connected, they got perhaps a VoIP system, and they might want it now to ring at home. But that's somebody else. I don't do that. But regardless, the need for IP addresses now is, in my experience, more than 20 times what it once was. Now everything has an IP address, or wants an everything wants to connect to the network. They might have a thermostat that wants to connect, or other Internet of Things devices. And now suddenly you're getting a lot more network traffic. Their internet service provider, one of my clients had 1.5 megabits. That was their speed. And I'm like, you keep piling on and piling on and piling on. It's not that this is getting slower, your demands are getting greater. And it's time to pony up the money to do whatever you got to do to get this internet speed upgraded. Furthermore, it's hard for me to work remotely that way, and doing offsite backups through the internet is impossible. It just takes too long. You have to drive over there, put the backup on an external drive, and then take it out of the building. Now, there's some added security to that, right? You don't have to worry about it being in the cloud and anybody stealing it or guessing the password, or the company that's hosting it going out of business, or the internet going down and you don't have the data. Nothing wrong with doing old school backups, sneaker net style, but it sure would be nice to have both. To do both the regular old school, make the backup physically in your hand and then take it out to another physical location, as well as have the backup happen more regularly, encrypted over the internet, where you don't have to think about it. You can automate it and just audit it. So as you hear the terms, there's a lot of industry terms bandied about technology and computers. That word MSP basically just means that you're going to be the guy or the gal that gets the phone call for any computer or network or server related issue, and that you or your company are the sole people responsible, and that the employees typically are not to make any changes to the computers, that you are to do that. If they've got a new piece of software and they want it installed, you do it. If there's an update, you do it. Because if anything goes sideways, if anything goes wrong, you're the person that needs to fix it. So you just do all of it. You tell them, hey, hands off. Any problems, you call me. And then you avoid these surprise calls where you're blindsided at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday because somebody went rogue and decided, well, this is easy, I'll do it myself. And they end up infecting the entire network, and you've got a huge mess to clean up where you have to go on site and your plans for that day are canceled. So it's in everybody's benefit. It helps the business owner focus on what they do so that they're not tied up doing the easy stuff, which turns out to get quite complicated. A lot of people underplay. Um, if you know how to do something, you might think, well, I'm not going to pay somebody to do that. I can do that myself. But the fact of the matter is, there are times that the unexpected occurs, and what you thought was going to be easy suddenly became more time consuming than you were initially planning for. And you might have a little regret that you took it on. And at some point, hopefully realize that, what am I doing? This is not my job. I should hire somebody to take care of this for me. And it doesn't have to be expensive. If anything, it should save them money. They should, when companies lose data, it is catastrophic. So the idea that they're trying to cut corners, it'd be like, I don't need to pay for electricity. I don't need to pay for water. I don't need to pay for rent. It absolutely shouldn't be an option, in my opinion. And anybody who's a has good business acumen should absolutely say, well, that's just nothing to even argue or debate about. That's just fact. But not everybody's like that. And part of being self-employed means you need to identify the people who want to profit from you. You might get people, and I certainly have, who effectively want to utilize me in a way that they profit. That is something you have to consent to. It's something you need to recognize sooner rather than later. And it's difficult for me to come up with an option to this other than to say, I had one client that I was underbilling this client. And I didn't want to risk losing the client by raising the rate. And I thought I'd be better off keeping the rate where it was because something's better than nothing. But then the client started getting more demanding of my time, more interruptions to my day. And I said, if you continue to call me this often with these problems, which aren't anything that we agreed on all those years ago when we set all this up, I'm going to have to adjust the rate so that I'm compensated for the additional work. And he said, okay, I'll call you less. This guy was worth millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars. Well, he didn't call me less. If anything, he called me more. And I reminded him one more time. I said, I really don't have time for this. This isn't what I do. Well, I enjoy talking to you. I have other people waiting. And I'm already sort of resentful that he's underpaying me for what I am doing, and now he's demanding I do more. So I said, if you want to pursue this and you want me to make more time for you, I have to change the billing. We have to change the monthly rate, which I reminded him I had never increased. And he said, okay, I'll call you less. And then he called again like the next day, same thing, as if we never had the conversation. I said, that's it. I said, I'm happy to help you, but between the increases I never gave you plus the demand, we're going to double. We're going to double what you're paying me. And he lost his mind. He didn't try to negotiate. He didn't try to say, hey, let's talk about this. And it got really, really personal. So it's important that you protect yourself, because the only person I have to blame for that situation even happening is me. For me to allow that to get that bad before I finally stood up and said something, it made it worse than if I had said it earlier on. So sort of being the nice guy and not wanting to rock the boat created a giant hole in the boat that completely capsized it. If I had identified this person as a user, you think about what he was getting away with. I was allowing him to get away with over $1,000 of work every month that he was paying less than $700 for every month. So he was profiting from me. And the more I allowed it, the more money he made off of my back. He's like, it's like, here, lay on the floor so I can use you as a step ladder to reach up higher, so I can achieve a higher status, but I need to stand on your back to do it. But they don't say it that way. You've got to be able to identify those people. Everybody's got a price. Okay? I'm willing to lay there and let you step on my back, but you're going to pay for it. If you're not willing to pay for it, then I'm not doing it. And it wasn't part of the original arrangement. And customers' needs change over time. The technology evolves. Sometimes the business model and what they do changes due to laws, or in this case, the pandemic. Suddenly, companies that had no interest in having employees work remotely for security reasons are now demanding their employees work remotely for safety reasons. Things change. And when they change, you need to be able to provide the answer, but don't just be the nice guy and say, oh, yeah, we'll just keep everything the same. I don't want to lose the customer because I'd rather make this little amount than make nothing. Well, you're an idiot. I was an idiot because all that time that that customer distracted me, keeping me busy with projects that I had no business doing and that I wasn't getting paid for, how many opportunities went right by me that I didn't see? For how long? Where else could I be today if I didn't allow this person to hold me down? So, if you're choosing to be self-employed and when you have clients, initially when you first start, you're happy to have any client. But ideally, you'll become an MSP. And with the MSP, you'll get to know the client quite well. You'll get to predict their needs. You'll be able to guide and assist them. And then as their needs change, if they grow the business, they hire more employees, that you have a process in place to be compensated for the additional work that's going to be required. So it doesn't come across very abrupt and unexpected to them, that they know that's going to happen. So if you want to be self-employed in IT, I'm telling you, MSP is the best way to go. If you want to be break fix, it's great for part-time if you're just starting out, but it's a very difficult way to make ends meet at the end of the month if that's all you're doing full-time is hoping that phone's going to ring. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be days where that phone doesn't ring, and there's going to be days where it won't stop, especially if there's a virus outbreak, a computer malware outbreak, a bad Windows update. All of a sudden, you're the most popular guy on the planet. 2 days ago, nobody knew you existed. And then people are upset because you can't help 6 people at the same time. So people have to wait their turn. They're impatient. They'll call somebody else. They don't have any loyalty to you. So if the call goes to voicemail or you give them an answer that they don't want to hear, they're done with you. There's other people to call. That doesn't mean they're as good as you, but that's not your problem, right? I'm happy to fix any problems created by other technicians. I charge the same. Does anybody have any questions about running a computer repair business or about any of the processes involved with marketing, generating revenue? I'd be happy to address those. I'm looking through the chat right now. I see a couple contributions have come in, so let me give a couple shouts out to, let's see, Rick Hubbard contributed 15 pounds. He says, Carey, I'm sending you a 200R case with a surprise inside for you via UPS, but I'll be in the hospital for my cancer operation when you get it. If you have to pay tax on it, let me know and I'll refund you. Well, that's very kind, Rick. Well, first of all, good on you for taking care of that cancer. It's something you don't, I'm the kind of guy, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. You need to do that ASAP. Wipe that out. Get it now before it gets worse. Let us know that you're okay. Follow up with us. Don't worry about taxes and stuff like that. I'll take care of it. It's no problem. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. And, beat that cancer and be in my chat room for the next 20 years, would you? Do what you got to do. And thank you. A contribution from Tom Jackson contributes $7.77. Says thanks for the edutainment. You're welcome. Thank you. Stephen Schumacher has contributed $5. He says, get a couple of Cokes. I hate to see you drink Gatorade. Yeah, my doctor wants me to drink less of it. I've been kind of easing back on it. I thought Gatorade was supposed to be good for you. When they did my blood work, they said, hey, your electrolytes are great, but your sugar is too high. And this is all sugar. Try Gatorade Zero. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather drink water. He says, better idea, even better. So anyway, I've gotten away with it for a long time. So it's time to shift and change that. You'll see I'm drinking less of the Coke, less of the Gatorade. But it's hot out here. It's 111 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, today. It's freaking hot. And Coke doesn't satisfy that quench when it's hot like that. And water, So in the meantime, I don't believe in extremes. I don't believe that you have to cut something off entirely. Just start easing it back the other way. That's all. Who else? Abdul Azim Patel with a contribution of $10 says base price on experience or what others charged. Any problems after updating drivers and then Windows 10 fail or spring update? Ultimately, how you choose to charge people is up to you. I feel like if you have more experience, then the amount of time it should take you should be less. So if it takes somebody else 2 hours, you can do the job in 45 minutes. That makes you worth more. If you do the job right the first time consistently, whereas somebody else may have to come back time and again until they absolutely solve the problem, that makes you worth more. If you're available at the drop of a hat and customers aren't having to wait days for you, that makes you worth more. There's a lot of things that can determine your value, but ultimately at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, what are you worth? With regards to drivers causing problems, of course it happens. Of course it happens. That's okay. It's a part of the process. You diagnose it, you fix it. In some cases, it may require a complete reinstall of Windows. But you're doing that for you, right? Because if you've got this weird problem, say you've got a company that's got, say it's a small company and they have 8 computers, and one of those computers is randomly blue screening, and you've spent some time on it and you can't figure it out. And everything's testing fine, the RAM's testing fine. And the customer's starting to feel like, we've been talking about this problem for a while now and it's still happening. You haven't provided a solution. You can't let it go too long before you bite the bullet and go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, make sure all the data's backed up, which it always is anyway, since I'm an MSP. We're going to figure out a weekend when you guys aren't going to be working. I will take the computer and I will bring it back to my place, or I'll come into the office, whatever, and I will do a complete reinstall of Windows, put your applications back on, reinstall the drivers, do all of that. And then that should take care of the blue screens. And yes, your recent documents and things are going to be missing, and it's going to be a little weird for a week because it's basically a new machine. But the investment in that will pay off to both of us. You as the employee, you're not going to lose any more work unexpectedly when the blue screen happens and you hadn't saved your document you've been working on for the last hour. And I don't get all of these phone calls, which de-stresses me. And although it's a lot of work to do a wipe, what we call a nuke and pave, at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it to me in the long run so that that computer has a nice, fresh, clean install. I won't do it just because, well, it's been a year. That's no reason. There's got to be a reason for me to do it. And I don't want to do it. It's very time consuming and the customer's not going to like it. It's different now, right? That's what you got. Basically, you're going to get a call. If I do this over the weekend, I can guarantee a call on Monday that says, well, now I can't print to this printer I used to be able to print it. That's no problem. We'll figure it all out. Well, the icons are a different color. The font's a different size. Well, one thing at a time. And then within a week or two, all of that settles down and everybody's happy again. And yeah, it's part of the job. It happens. But whatever caused that problem, if you can't reasonably fix it with a registry or a driver, it's faster and a more solid fix to just wipe and start again in the case of keeping the customer happy and keeping yourself from going crazy because the customer keeps calling you with the same problem and you can't seem to solve it. Now, if you've done a fresh, clean install and the computer's still blue screening, it's time to replace or upgrade that computer. There's something you're missing. And I'm talking new power supply, new motherboard, new CPU, new RAM, new storage. And if the customer's machine is more than 3 years old, it's time to do that anyway. You just have a reason now. Instead of, well, like my customer now, he's got 3 or 4 machines that were built in 2015. And I'm like, we need to upgrade these machines before, sorry, I'm having a little upload bandwidth issue here. We need to upgrade these machines before they fail or before they start running so slowly. Like these machines still run SATA SSDs. I want to put NVMe in everything now. And the new CPUs are so much faster, even though they're just doing office work. Nobody ever complains their computer's too fast. And then we can schedule the time when we do it rather than wait for the computer to fail. And then we have to do it on that day. We have to find a solution right now. For those clients, I recommend a spare computer that we just keep in a closet somewhere, and that when we bring it out, we can use it like a spare tire. We just need to make sure we get it fully updated, especially with the antivirus and Windows updates, before we let the employee start using it. Then we can take the broken computer and on our own time, we can wait for sales or for certain products to come in stock rather than buying what's available because you don't have a choice. You can wait to get the parts you really want, the price you really want to pay, and then put that back in the closet as the new spare. You know what I'm saying? So that you have this ability to resolve your customer's issue right away, but it does require a customer that understands that you're going to buy a computer for $800 perhaps, and it's going to sit in the closet. But never once has a computer sat in a closet and been forgotten about and not used. Those computers always get used. Most times they don't get used in the way they were intended. In my experience, the employer ends up hiring somebody maybe for part-time work because they got super busy, and they set up a desk somewhere and they need a computer. They go, oh, we got that spare one in the office. Now they don't have a spare computer anymore. But that's generally temporary, although I've had a few instances where they hired somebody to work part-time and decided it's working so well, we're just going to keep them on full-time. And months go by and something happens and I'm like, use the spare. And I'm like, we don't have a spare. And I didn't realize, oh yeah, right? We needed to do something about that. So in those cases, what we advise them to do is there's usually an employee that's not there because the employees, at least at these offices that I work at, it's not that everybody works the same days and hours. So go sit at somebody else's desk for today. You guys all have the same software, you all have the same operating system, and all the data's on the server. So there's no reason you have to sit in a specific desk or to have a specific computer. They're all the same. And then there's the benefit to that right there. And that's part of what they're paying you for as an MSP. They're paying you to have that foresight, to be ready for it when it happens, to have an instant solution that can satisfy their needs. And it also doesn't stress you out, right? You don't have to drop everything you're doing because they called you. You can just quickly tell them on the phone, hey, just sit over here at this other desk. I'll get to it. Let's see what else we have. M. Watson 1972 contributed $5. David Starbuck with a $20 contribution says, happy Wednesday, Carey. Right on, David. Thank you. Evidence Savant, look at this, $100 contribution. Very generous. He says, here, Carey, go buy food for Lyle. And sorry, I forgot his name. It's Jimmy. Oh, is it? It's not time yet, guys. As for you, he says, you're going to have to dig into your own pockets. Fair enough. And then another $15 contribution, so that's $115 from Evidence Savant 12. He says, buy Jimmy a dog toy. Google too can buy themselves a dog toy. At this rate, I'll be broke by midnight. So the dogs are on a monthly BarkBox subscription. And let me show you something. This isn't full. Well, let me rephrase. This is full, but this isn't everything. This is, let me bring it over here to the camera. So every month a box of dog toys, well, there's 2 dog toys arrive, and every Christmas I renew it, and both dogs share one BarkBox. And in the BarkBox there are 2 squeaky toys, an individual treat like some kind of a rawhide stick that I usually break in half and give each dog half, and then 2 separate bags of dog treats, little treats like rewards for training and things. And Jimmy will often disembowel. I've thrown a lot of these away. He has killed many of these. You'll see he's working pretty good on that one. That one's about ready to go because you don't want him swallowing that stuff. So there's no shortage of toys for the dogs, and these are just the ones in the basket. He takes them out of the basket when he feels like it, and they're all over the living room floor. So there's even more than what I'm holding up. But but thank you for the contribution and the support, and for helping keep me independent from being a mouthpiece for a corporate sponsor. That means a lot to me. Whoops. Sorry about that. I leaned on my keyboard. Let me take a look at, see if you guys have any questions in here regarding. Randall says Gatorade Zero sucks. I agree. You can be a moderator, Randall. Use ice with your drinks. I found out I use 2 times water with pot. I agree. You know, watering it down. It keeps it cold and it helps dilute it a bit from the potency of the sugar. Good advice. Robert Jones says I had my sugar tested in my blood and it's high from fruit smoothies. Yeah, well, you know, something tastes good. You know it's not good for you, right? Chevy Arthur says a Cronus True Image for me today, less than 1 hour to change from 500 gigs to 2 terabytes. Yeah, that's a huge time saver. That's another thing that makes you worth more as a tech. What tools do you have? And do you know how to use them? Because there's lots of different ways that we can solve a customer's problem. And if your way is more consistent with being successful, if you're faster, in theory, you can charge less and make more because you can help more people or do more jobs in a given day. So it's a matter of finding that balance of what you think is a fair amount to do the work that the customer needs done. Evidence Savant says, I just wanted to see my generosity and lights. You know what? I think that's great. Thank you. No problem. I appreciate it very much. I agree. It deserves to be in lights. Have the dogs eaten yet? The dogs don't eat till 5, so I've got a few minutes. Kind of strict. I'm still looking through to see, looking through the chat here to see if there's any questions about the IT business or being self-employed. Don Walters wants to know how much a BarkBox costs. It depends. Just go to barkbox.com, and they have, it's all full disclosure with depending on the size dog you've got, what you want in the BarkBox, and how long you want them. Like a 12-month subscription, monthly is less than a month to month. I think it's around $260 for the subscription that I have. So that works out to be less than $30 a month. What I was doing before is I would buy the dog's toys if I saw them in the store. And it's not like I went to the store purposely to get dog toys, but I might be at Costco and I'm looking, and the inventory with the dog stuff is always changing at Costco, and they might have this, package of like 3 or 4 dog toys for $10, and I'd buy it. And I thought, well, that's not really fair to them. They should have a regular new toy introduced to them because they don't have a real exciting life. So I do that for them. In fact, for the holidays, I'll often give them to friends. I'll give them like a 3-month subscription to BarkBox for their dog. I find that people appreciate it better to buy their dog a present for the holidays than to buy them one. I have a friend in Michigan, and his dog, he got a dog because I told him he should get one. And so he did. So I said, well, I'm going to be the dog's godfather. I'll be the dog father. And so I feel obligated to get him to get the dog a 3-month BarkBox subscription every Christmas. Um, it was funny to me because I asked my friend, I said, he told me he got this Doberman. And I said, well, that's great. I'm so glad. He's living alone. He had been divorced and he had a dog that had died. And He's a super nice guy. He's somebody I grew up with back in the day, and I said, you really need to get another dog. He's like, I can't get over the loss of the other one. Like, you're never going to get over the loss of the other one until you get a new one. Let the loss of the one be the saving grace for one that you rescue. You know, as one door closes, another door opens. Let that process, allow that process. It's healing. And you save another dog's life because your dog had his turn. All things come to me. We know this. It's not like new information. But people get hung up on it. Like, I don't know. I want to go through that pain again. Oh, yeah, it's totally worth it. I'm telling you, it's the best cure for a broken heart. Get yourself a dog, especially if it's a dog that caused your broken heart. Anyway, so he got the dog, and he tells me he's got the dog. And I said, well, what made you get the dog? And he said, because you told me to. I'm like, you listened to me? You're an idiot. No, she's a great dog too. She's really smart. He's trained her really well. And I said, if anything happens to you, I'll take the dog. Your dog will be fine. He says, I told my mother, his mother's got to be in her 70s. He says, I told my mother you said that, and she was horrified that anything bad would happen to me. And she would take the dog. I said, okay, well, if your mom can't take the dog, I just want you to know your dog will I will take care of it. So there's a special bond there, I guess. So anyway, the bark box is a really nice gift for somebody who has a dog. So instead of getting them a gift, get their dog a gift, and they'll probably love that more than anything you would get them. And, we're not talking about this in November, right? You have plenty of time to plan for it. You can go see the prices, and it's a great gift for your own dog. And with all the pandemic stuff, it's something that's in the mail, so you just type a few things on the keyboard and click a mouse, it's done. Obligation over. Not that it's an obligation, but I'm joking. It's just a nice thing to do, and it's really effortless. If you have the money, if you can afford it, it's a nice thing. I've never seen any dogs complain about it. So again, I just want to look back through the chat. Bruce wants to know if I have customers sign SLAs. So the SLA is the service level agreement. That means that I'm promising the customer a guaranteed level of service, that you're not going to wait more than X amount of hours or days for your phone call to be returned or your problem to be solved. Now, that's getting to be more and more important. I did not do that in the past, but I would say going forward, it would be a good idea to make that clear and have it in writing so that you don't find yourself in the situation that I did where customers are asking me to do things that were not part of the agreed upon arrangement. So make sure that what you're going to do is in writing. Make sure the amount of time you have to do that is in writing. And I also would put in writing that either party can cancel the contract at any time with some modicum of notice. Like I would say a 30-day notice is reasonable. I don't want to get a phone call the day before the bill is due and say, well, we're done with you. Now, it'd be very difficult to enforce it, but if it's in writing and it's there, you could theoretically go after them for a month. You say, you owe me for a month. You didn't give me a month's notice, you owe me a month. That's just common consideration. But I would put that in the contract, and it's stuff. I've always done stuff on a handshake, and it's just not working anymore. People are becoming more entitled, less tolerant, and more demanding. And so now the price isn't as nice. Now it's like I'm going to have to charge a bit more to compensate for the demanding and tolerant nature of the way clients have started to become, at least here in Phoenix. And I need to make sure you sign an agreement that it's the scope of work, SOW, the scope of work. There's some acronyms you should get to know, like ROI, which is your return on investment. If you're telling your customer you need to buy a server, you need to explain to them how that's going to save them money, because they're just going to go, well, we're spending $4,000 on a server. Well, hold on. We're going to talk about what we're going to be able to do with the new server, how much more we can do, how much more productive you can be, how much more money you can make, and how much money you'll save in maintenance and repair costs. So return on investment's a big one. Scope of work, also standard operating procedure. There should be protocol of procedure, which could mean anything from, look, you got let's say 20 employees. I don't want 20 employees calling me randomly. I've had situations where I've had multiple phone calls arrive simultaneously from the same company because the other employees didn't know that somebody else was already calling me. So for those companies, we associate what I call a liaison. And that is, I will have one point of contact at the company, and that's usually the main administrator. And if any employee has a problem, they go to the administrator. Then the administrator reaches out to me. And then I take care of the work. And I will call the employee with the problem if I need more information specific. I don't need the administrator to know all the details. They don't need to be a computer person. I mean, otherwise, why would they need me? But I also don't need, let's say the email's down. I don't need all 20 employees calling me to tell me the email's down. I just need to hear it from one. Now, on a smaller company, that's not such a big deal. But in a bigger company, they're not talking to each other. They're all calling you, and it gets chaotic. And it's unnecessary. It's unproductive for everybody. So things like that have to be in the contract, that there's going to be a point of contact. And regardless if you say who it is in the contract, you just make sure that there's going to be one point of contact. And I'm not going to get random calls from employees throughout the day, because then the boss doesn't know what's going on. Basically, he's got employees spending his money. The employee's calling me and saying, hey, my monitor doesn't work and I want a big monitor since you got to replace it anyway. It doesn't work like that. I can't do that. I got to make sure that the big man, the boss man, the one paying the bills, approves of this, right? Does he even know you're calling me? You'd be surprised some of the entitlement these employees will exhibit to you, as though this is all a buffet. So it's really important to put that in contracts. And technibble.com already has contracts written up. You can buy their computer business kit for like $100. And it's got like over 300 documents, from ticketing to invoicing and contracts, none of which you should just use out of the box, but you should use it as a template and make adjustments to meet your state and local laws, as well as whatever requirements you will have as an individual for your business. Remember, it's your business. You get to decide what your protocols and procedures are. And they should be there for good reason. It should protect you. It should protect your company. It should protect your clients. And you shouldn't, in my opinion, negotiate on those policies or protocols or procedures, even if a client wants you to. They exist for a reason. And the minute you do it, you will soon regret it. You'll say, well, see, I shouldn't have done that. Now here I am in this situation. That's the whole reason I had that protocol in there, was to avoid this. And now you've got an unhappy client and you're unhappy. It's just not good. Robert Joseph wants to know, is your MSP billing model based on systems, hours, or a combination of factors? It's based on a combination of factors. Just because somebody's got a lot of computers doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have a lot of problems, though they are going to have a lot of maintenance, right? I mean, it's going to take less time to maintain 2 computers than maintain 6. But that's not my biggest concern. Remember that I can also sell them computers, so the more computers they have, the more money there is to be made in service, just regular service. So I take into account, is this office the kind of office that calls me every time their paper runs out of their printer, and they call me because they don't understand why it won't print? Or is this an office that's only going to really call me, once I have everything optimized and tuned? Are they going to call me on a very rare occasion? And if so, based on an average of, let's just say, it's going to require this many hours to do the maintenance, it's approximately this many hours to do the backup, and the backup is growing by this much every month, right? I'm going to know all of that first. I never just start somebody on a retainer. I always start hourly. And after a couple of months, after they get these big bills, I go, how would you like to make that bill less? And how would you like to fix your IT costs so you know exactly what 1 year of IT labor is going to cost you? I can't predict your hardware costs, but if the hardware remains reliable, then all you have is labor. And what if I, to incentivize you, reduce that labor rate down since you'll be buying in bulk? So instead of buying hourly, I don't know, you're going to buy 1 hour, you're going to buy 2 hours, 10, I don't know. So let's say over the last couple months, you've been averaging, you need about 10 hours. And instead of $150 an hour, I'll charge you, let's say 105, but you have to pay me for 3 months at a time. So if we go 10 hours for 3 months, that's 30 hours. We'll take it to $100 an hour. So that's $3,000, $1,000 a month, $3,000 every 3 months. How's that sound? They go, well, yeah, I'd like the $1,000 a month. They go, no, it's not $1,000 a month. I'm not offering it to you monthly. I'm saying if you want that $1,000 price per month, you've got to buy 3 months. You don't go to Costco and say, you see that big bulk thing of toilet paper that has 100 rolls in it? I like that price, but I just want to buy 10 rolls. Well, you didn't get that price then. You don't get to divide the cost by 10 and pay that. That's not how that works. In order to get that price, you've got to buy all of it. I need that customer to be committed to me. I don't want them flipping on me at every time that they just feel intolerant or having a bad day. They need to be dedicated to me because they're asking me to dedicate to them. Now, at the end of those 3 months, you don't have to renew. But that's my incentive to not, just take the money and run. That's my incentive to always answer the phone, to always answer your questions, and to always solve your problems. So when I send that retainer renewal, you pay it without question. So we're both in this for the same reason. You want to save money, you want to have a system that's up and running, you want your employees to be productive. I want a regular check. I want to maintain systems that I've already been maintaining. I don't want to fix somebody else's mess, and I don't want to wait for the phone to ring someday in the hopes that I'll be able to eat that day. I need a regular income, and I'll tell it to the customer just like that. Straight up, I need a regular income. So I'm willing to charge you less, but you have to buy in bulk. That works out well for me. It's honest, and it shows that it's in their benefit as well as mine. And I am incentivized to make sure that they stay happy. It's not like a gym membership where you're locked in and you can be treated like dirt and there's nothing you can do about it. If the customer wants to go 6 months, I'll take the rate down even further. We'll go $90 an hour. Pay me for 6 months. I might even consider 80. Depends on the customer. The problem when you go that length is if something in the office changes, like they hire a new employee and that new employee doesn't know anything about computers and they're calling you for tutoring and they think that's support. It gets into a sticky situation. Or the the owner of the company hires his family member and that family member is screwing everything up and the family member can't be fired and the family member is getting away with doing stuff that no employee in the office would ever get away with doing, but the family member gets away with it and you're left to have to deal with it. And when that family member calls you, they act like they're the ones paying you when it's their father or whoever. In most cases, it's a father that runs a business and the kid, and when I say kid, this could be somebody in their 30s, okay, comes in and just starts telling you what to do and challenging every decision you make, and in some cases even trying to convince their father that they shouldn't have you do this anymore. And despite the fact you did nothing to them, they just decide, why are you paying this guy? I could do this for you. You deal with that. So if you're dealing with 6 months at a time and then something like that happens, you might decide you're no longer willing to work for that rate, but you're committed to it. And then you might want to evaluate the value of the service for the renewal and sit down with the customer and talk about it. That's very uncomfortable. And that's happened a couple of times. It's happened 3 times to me where a family member has interfered with my ability to do my job and I did nothing to the family. I didn't know them. I didn't go after them. I've never said a bad thing about them, and they came at me like I was the enemy. And in all of those cases, in all three cases, those family members are no longer a part of the business. But it wasn't easy to get them out. And nothing I can say. It's not my business. It's not my decision to make. But everybody was miserable. Everybody was miserable until that person left. So you got to think of stuff like that. If you go on for these long retainers, it means you also have to potentially endure, just like the customer might have to potentially endure if you're being, awful in their mind. They want to switch and now they're locked in, but they save money. Chevy Arthur says my new 2 terabyte Samsung hard solid state drive, I guess, shows the old 1 terabyte size. Any suggestions? You should be able to go to disk management. If you're running Windows 10, right click on the start button, go to disk management, and then look and see if you can extend the size of the partition if it's available. James Liebig is in the chat room saying hello. Jason Baum says, Carey, have you ever used a Stream Deck for ease of access for intros and outros? The problem with the Stream Deck is one way or another I have to take my eyes off what's going on here, and I've got to focus on where the button is here. So I do use the Stream Deck when I'm doing like live interviews, and I basically have 3 buttons that I don't have to look at it. I know that the button here is for the guest, the button in the middle is me and the guest on screen at the same time, and the button on the right is just me on screen. So I don't have to look at it. But the fact that I have to take my eyes off and then find it and look at it isn't any easier or simpler than looking at OBS and clicking on it. So the Stream Deck is not an automatic, everything's easier all the time. In some cases, it's more difficult and more distracting. But I do have the Stream Deck in the right scenario. It works really good. Now, if I had a producer, if I had somebody behind the scenes, working to operate different cameras and control different angles and intros and cutaways, I would absolutely have them using the Stream Deck. It would make their life a little easier. But to try and do it all, to be to have the content, to be in front of the camera, to engage with the audience live, as well as control intros and outros, it's a handful. And the Stream Deck, sometimes it's helpful in the right scenario, and I've brought it out in those instances. Almost every interview you see me do, I'm using the Stream Deck. Carey, do you have any possible solutions to the Windows cannot be installed to this disk? The hardware might not support booting to the disk issue. I'm not aware of that being a singular solution, so no. I would have to see the problem firsthand in order to determine what the cause is. There can be many different solutions depending on why that's happening. Anthony Wilson says, good morning all from the UK. I have cerebral palsy and I was curious to see if anyone else here has similar difficulties, as building, repairing computers is something I can do without change. Anthony, we have several viewers I know for a fact that have cerebral palsy that, look, we all have good days and bad days, but you set your mind to do something, you're going to do it. You'll face your challenges. We all have challenges. Physical challenges, mental challenges, life challenges, we all face them. And I'm not going to say that they're easy to overcome or that one problem is more difficult to overcome than another. But you're not alone, and there are others as well struggling people with MS, people with vision impairment, et cetera, et cetera. So you just don't let those things get in your way. Don't let them be excuses. You might have to work harder than other people, but if you set your mind to it, you'll do it. And give yourself permission to have a bad day and say, I'm not going to do it today. This is just not the day for this. That's okay too. Just don't let that be every day. Do you have any recommendations for starting a computer repair, tech support, or custom build business? Well, just go find the work. Find somebody who wants to buy a computer. The way you start a business is you find the customer. You find the work. From the work, you develop a business. You don't develop a business, it doesn't work the other way around. In other words, you don't you don't work on the cover of the book and then think about what you're going to write later. You write the book and then you figure out the cover afterwards. So your order of events is backwards. You're looking at the goal line, but the journey, right, is the process, and you can't simplify the process, but rather oversimplify the process to a point of a video game or to a puzzle. The process is the business. You get the work. The more work you get, the busier you are, and thus you have a business. Busy, business. Not busy, no business. Well, not for long. So get busy, then the business will happen. The business will become the end result of being busy. How do you get busy? Go find some work. How do you do that? Well, that's where you've got to be different than everybody else. That's where you have to think of things other people haven't thought of. Try techniques that work for you. And then find other like-minded individuals who see a value in that. And if something doesn't work, try something else. Try something else, and try something else until you find something that works for you. Whatever that is, I don't know. So a couple of other contributions came in. So let's acknowledge. Let's see. Timothy Wurs has contributed $5 and said, "Carey, I sent you a PayPal a few days ago, so you can keep more of it. Thanks for the quick tips video and what you do. Keep up the awesome work." Thank you, Timothy, and make sure that you're a moderator in here. I know there have been some PayPal contributions the last few days that I have not had time to respond to. I always make the time to at least send a thank you note to people who contribute through PayPal. And I've been dropping the ball here. I've been so busy, but if you haven't received that from me, and especially if it's been in the last few days, I know you haven't. It's because I haven't sent it yet, but I'm going to go through and sit down on my email and just do that for like whatever it takes for me to get caught up. And I appreciate your patience and your support. James A. Holland Jr. contributed $2.99. Marta with £5. Marta says, Coca-Cola Gatorade money should be buying new case fans, but supplying you with beverages is one part. That's kind, Marta. Thank you. David, our officer, with $10 Canadian, says, thanks for the videos. BV Customs Cobriette has contributed $9.99. Thank you. Leonard with $3.99. And Tiger Claw Nation with $2 says, what is your favorite platform, AMD or Intel? I am more familiar with Intel. We're on the 10th generation of chip, so it's had a lot of time to mature. Also, because I do most of my work, most of my revenue comes from businesses. All of the business owners I deal with don't want AMD. They are very specific. I try to say, look, maybe we could do a test system. They're like, don't want it. Now, I don't profit more from selling an Intel system, and I don't profit less from selling an AMD system. I will build whatever a customer wants. If I'm going to build a system for myself, I will build an Intel system. I find that it's just less maintenance. It's just easier. I don't have to. I have software to tell me when there's new chipset drivers that AMD can't seem to figure out how to do that. I have a platform that's been proven over 10 years, that's been refined and refined and refined. You know, AMD's latest series of chips they just came out with are a big dud. They're, what are they called? I can't think of the name. Tom's Hardware just did a review on them, so they're just not worth the money. So even AMD is getting a little Intelish with regards to trying to eke out a little refinement from their existing architecture and then charging a premium for it. So I don't think either one of these companies is particularly better than the other one. Just that Intel's got more maturity with that line of chips. Eventually, if AMD keeps going where they're going, they will reach that. But at the end of the day, whatever the customer wants built is what I'll build. I don't have real strong feelings about it either way. And thank you for the contribution. Bearpaw contributed £2. It says couple of shekels for the coffers. Right on. Thanks, Bearpaw. And Paul O'Brien with a €1 contribution. Very kind of all of you. Thank you so much for the support. Stuart says, Carey, I broke some CPU pins off an AMD 3600 chip and I removed the cooler. Ooh. He says, lesson learned. Well, that sucks. One of the tricks to removing the coolers is to warm the chip up. Let the system run for a couple of minutes. It doesn't even have to be very long. And let the thermal compound get warm. And then that chip should come up, or the heatsink should separate from the chip. If you can't separate it, then you've got to be very, very delicate. Why were you taking the CPU out is what I want to know. Please, please tell me, why were you taking the cooler off? I don't know that you meant to take the CPU out. But what problem were you solving when you decided to remove the cooler? And how long ago did you build the system? So I just want to know those two things. How old was the system? And why did you remove the cooler, which ultimately ended up permanently damaging your CPU? Troll McTrollington says it's the XT series from AMD. Yes, thank you. The new AMD XT series of chips are not being reviewed well. I had ordered an AMD 3300X when they first announced them. $120, ordered it on Amazon right away. I was put on a waiting list and was told when the inventory came in, I'd be one of the first to get them. And I thought, well, that'll be great. I have a YouTube channel. And so, you know, time is of the essence. People are less likely to watch a video, me showing an Intel 9700K today. They want to see a 10900K. You know what I mean? Like if you want to get the views. Well, they sent me an email and said, sorry, we didn't get as much inventory as we were expecting. Do you want to continue to wait? And I said, sure, I'll wait. And now it's been over a month. And I'm like, you know what? Cancel the order. I'm not interested anymore. The way AMD pricing goes, that $120 Ryzen 3 3300X will probably be $90 in 2 months' time. And there'll probably be bundles of them to buy. It won't be so hard to find. So I gave up on that. I tried ordering another computer case. I tried ordering the big Antec Torque 2. It's like $385. And it says it's due to arrive in 3 days. 3 days come and go, and it says, oh, it's not, it's had unexpected delays, right? This is all through Amazon. If it doesn't arrive within 3 days, let us know, and you can cancel the order or replace it. So another 3 days goes by, go over the weekend, etc., and tracking information, there's no update. It says it was sent to the wrong postal carrier. It's just gone. It's a big monster of a case. Look up the Antec Torque 2. It's a big, big monster case. So I went to Amazon. I said, look, I want to replace this. Clearly it's lost in the mail. I mean, how you lose something that big, I don't know. They said, no problem. We're sorry for the inconvenience. We'll cancel that order. We created a new order. It should arrive in 3 days. Guess what? Lost in transit. Again. Sent to the wrong mail carrier. Again. So I reached back out to Amazon. I said, look, this is almost $400. It's been nearly a month that I've ordered this, and there's nothing. They said, well, we'll refund your money. I go, but refunding my money doesn't get me the product. I wanted to make a video with this computer case. I can't do it now. They said, we can't order you another one. We can't. I said, fine, refund the money. John Young has contributed $5 as a small contribution to the cause. Rochester NY87 has contributed $10. Says, I'm finally ditching my Threadripper 2990WX and Azuth. Azuth? I just mixed two words up together. Let me start again. He says, I'm finally ditching my Threadripper 2990WX and Asus Zenith Extreme Alpha and just ordered a few 10900Ks, keeping one for me and pairing it with the MSI Godlike Z490, giving MSI a chance. Ooh, that sounds expensive. Where did you find any 10900Ks in stock? I've been looking and I can't find one. Michael Dane has contributed $5. He says, have a slice of pizza and Coke on a Dane. Hey, Michael, I had an idea. First, of course, thank you for the contribution, as to everybody else. But Michael likes to build computers for local family community, in his community, local families in need. And I'm sitting on a number of these off-lease workstations that I plan to one day have the time to put in the solid state drives and do a nice clean install of Windows 10 and give away to people in need. And I thought, since you're so supportive to the channel and you're so willing to do these things for other people, what if I sent you 4 or 5 of these machines to support you in what you're doing? Or I could even order some online and have them shipped directly to you, because for what shipping is going to cost me, it might be cheaper for me to go right to Second Chance IT, have them make a deal with me, and send them over to you so you can keep doing what you're doing and I can support that. Also, not to leave anybody out, if you're a member in blue in the chat room and you're in need of a computer, given my last go round with the disabled American vets, that I didn't get any thank yous from 4 machines that I went through the trouble of sending during a pandemic, I want to open the gates a little wider here to people who might benefit just as much. And I want to make sure that everybody in blue is taken care of. And it doesn't have to be you personally. If you know of somebody that would benefit from one of these off-lease computers, they're a few years old, they're still DDR3 RAM, but we'll put a 240 gig solid state drive in it. What I want you to do is I want you to send me an email, and I want you to explain the situation to me. Now, if you're not in the United States, because I can only ship within the US, please send me the email anyway, because there are others around the world watching the channel. There's folks that are generous to people in need that might be able to help. There's no promises here, but I'm just saying we can put it out there. And if there's somebody like Colin Hilton, like in the UK, if you're in that area, if there's somebody who, like Michael Dane or like many other community members, likes to do things for others that's in your area, we can sort of pair you up so you can help one another and really bond this community together, rather than helping some strangers that are, disabled American vets who can't be bothered to say thank you. I know you guys are good people, and I want to get the best bang for the buck out of these machines. I really want a sense of appreciation from the people who receive them, knowing that they're going to a good cause. And it's a lot of responsibility in trying to determine that. So you can help me with that. We can help each other. And be sure and send the email, and let's help each other. remember, these aren't rocket ships of machines that we're giving away, but they're a lot nicer than what some people out there are required to use because of numerous financial restraints due to their circumstances. So, no judgment. We just want to make sure that they're not going to. I mean, what a shame. They sit in my garage unused where somebody could be benefiting from them, somebody who would appreciate it. Rochester NY87 says he found the 10 900Ks at Newegg Business. Or, so Newegg has this Newegg Business site. It was $529. Yeah. I gotta say, I bought some 9700Ks off Amazon and they were like 380. And I don't think the performance between the two chips is worth $150. But I still want one because, it's the hot chip and I just want one for the video, for the channel. So I'll have to look at Newegg later today and see if they're available there. Thank you for the heads up. OG Gaming has contributed $10. Says, love the channel and the knowledge that comes from it and a great community. Keep up the great work, Carey. Hey, thank you. Thank you for your support and your continued support at that and contributions. Cronus has joined us. Welcome in, Cronus. Good to see you guys as always. And Sharon has just put my email address there in the chat room. That's how you can email me. And of course, you can go to tech-vets.com and there's a link to email me there if you're not seeing the chat room for any reason. But I do want, I want to hear from the people in blue on the giveaway because these are people that are familiar. They're not just here for a giveaway, they're here for the content, they're here for the community. And so for this particular offer, I want to just experiment here with the folks in blue. And again, with Michael Dane, I want to see if we can, how I can help you do what you're doing. I want to encourage what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. Luke Greenia says, Carey, I've been using the trial version of RoboForm for a few weeks and I liked it so much. I went and purchased it through your link. Right on, Luke. Well, appreciate, again, supporting the channel. And I know that having a password manager is, you wonder how you ever live without one once you've got it. Once you know better, it's hard to go back to any other sort of way you were taking care of your passwords before. So I'm glad that you like it. Steve Descharm says, Carey, all the advice you give to me and everyone in our community is so helpful. Thank you for all you do. Have a great day. Thank you, Steve. Well, you sound like moderator material. We'll make sure you're blue in here for sure. Michel Nafar is in France. That's why I said it that way. We probably pronounced it wrong. I tried, though. He says, you're right, Carey. I do what you do in France. And he's referring to my business model. And he says, I'm doing fine. I've adopted your system with yearly contracts renewable, and I love it. Right on. Right on. That's great. I'm still looking to see if Stuart Robertson ever responded to me about why he took the cooler off. I'm not seeing a response yet. He says it was a newly installed chip. Stock cooler was running too hot. So I wanted to replace it with an aftermarket. It was just built a day or two before. What temperature was too? So the stock cooler on the 3600 especially, what temperature was too hot to you? Like I'm trying to figure out, was it thermal throttling? Was it reaching its temperature threshold and starting to slow down? Because that shouldn't happen with a stock cooler. Or did your mind just get poisoned from information online that suggested cooler was better, even though you were within the operating range, then you should have left it alone? I'm just curious. This is a great example of what people do that may not be justifiable. It could have been a problem you created And that was a problem that never existed because of your interpretation of temperature readings. And I'm just curious how you define running too hot. Starbuck Tech says, story for you all. I was moving a 2700X CPU from one case to another and switching out the motherboards. I was in the process of transferring it over when my cat knocked my arm and dropped the CPU, bending the pins. Now, Intel CPUs don't have pins on the processors, they're on the motherboard. You don't have that problem with Intel. Doesn't make it superior, it's just a point of fact. You have a different problem, right? You can bend the pins on the board, but the board is generally not handled the way the CPU is. So I think the Intel process of removing the pins from the CPU and putting it on the board is superior because CPUs have always had pins. You can go all the way back to the 8086, it had pins. So to me, AMD needs to get with the times and adopt a pinless design as Intel has done. These stories are all too common, as you can see. Okay, I hear squeaking, which is my dog complaining that it's past dinner time. All right. All right, let's get the dogs fed and then we'll get out of here for today. I have this repair to do. This is still waiting, and the reason this is waiting, there's two levels of repair that this requires. The first was a hardware level repair, and I'm telling you this because if you want to be an IT technician, this is two jobs that you have to do. One is hardware, the other is software. So when it's a new build, there's not really a whole lot to do with software, everything's new. But when somebody brings you a machine like this and it doesn't boot anymore, we have to diagnose why it's not booting. And in this case, a bad motherboard. We have a new motherboard in, and I used my own solid state drive to do a clean install of Windows to ensure that all the hardware was working like it should. Fine, everything's good. Now I've got to hook up 4 hard drives back that were the customer's hard drives. One is a Kingston solid state drive the customer is booting from. 2 others are solid state drives that were paired together in a RAID 0 on the previous motherboard's BIOS that I'm hoping, because this is the same manufacturer, I'm hoping I can recover that RAID 0 array. And then the 4th drive is a mechanical 3.5-inch drive. And when I got the first drive, I hook up one drive at a time, got the first drive up, system booted, there's a login password, I didn't have the password. So I had to contact the customer and say, hey, I can't go any further with this until you give me your login password. Customer's like, well, it's either this or that. All right, so that finally got me in. But now one of the Windows updates won't go in. And I think the reason the Windows update won't go on is I believe that part of his Windows install or some of the files it needs is either on the RAID 0 array or on the other drive that I've not hooked up yet. But I can't put Windows 2004 on here. It won't work. And I can't get this one particular update to install. And it's saying there are files missing. And I suspect that the customer has moved those files, whether it was on purpose or not, I don't know, onto one of the other drives I have yet to hook up. So I guess what I'm trying to get across to you is that this job was not just replace a motherboard. This is missing updates. I don't want to call the customer and say, hey, I'd like to wipe it clean and start over again, because I think that would suck for the customer, not for me. It'd be easy for me. But I'm trying to be respectful of the customer's configuration and data and programs installed. And, there's stuff on there I don't agree with. He's got CCleaner installed. If you're going to use CCleaner, use the portable version. He's got it permanently installed. That takes up resources. The whole point of CCleaner is to free up resources. Why would you install it to take up resources so it can free resources? I don't get that, but it's not my machine, and it's not necessarily harmful. It just really annoys me. So I can't do this on camera because I can't show you the customer's full name and all their applications. So I have to do this off camera. And luckily, he's waiting patiently for me to get to that because it's a handful. So with that, let me get these boys fed. You hungry? Here they come. Here they come. You guys ready for some dinner? You hungry? Oh yeah, he looks like he's hungry. Okay. Is that where I keep the food? Is that why you're standing here? You showing me where the food is? As if I'm not the guy who put it here? Is this gonna get it faster? Is that like pushing the elevator button again and again? Does it? Okay, you're a dog. I get it. I'm a dog. Just give me the damn food. Come here. Come here. This is not our routine. Okay. There you go, boy. How about you, Jimmy? Are you ready? He's a big screwball. Let's see. Where is he? Standing by his food. Are you ready? Yeah? You hungry? You're such a good boy. Oh, don't swing at me. He's trying to shake, but he's so excited. He ends up swinging. Yeah. You gonna swing some more? You're such a good boy. Here you go. Good boy. Okay. Give me a second here to readjust the camera. Right about there, I guess. You don't measure their food. Yeah, the what did you see me give them their food in? It's a measuring cup. The scoop. You each get one level scoop. It's the same. Did you not see? What did you see me grab a handful and just randomly put it in their bowl? It's a weird question. I will say that my dog Jake was a German Shepherd, and he would self-feed. I had the same style of food container, and he would pull the door open with his mouth, and he would stick his head in and eat whenever he was hungry. And he was always a svelte dog. He was never fat. He only ate when he was hungry. It was a very strange, weird. I also had a husky. Her name was Carey, and I had her first. And he would take a mouthful of food out of the food bin and then spit it out on the floor so for the husky, and he'd walk away. It was a very strange. I've never seen a dog that was so disinterested in food. It's very strange. If you went to feed Jake anything, he'd like, okay, I guess I'll take it. Like Lyle, he'll take a finger off and he'll swallow something whole. And like, did you taste anything there, boy? Yeah, I'm talking about you. Do you even taste your food? Tasting is for suckers. So I was previously talking about BarkBox. You see, we've got some BarkBox treats here. What do you think, Jimmy? No? You want? Costco sells these dog cookies, these dog biscuits, and I don't know what Costco is putting in these, but the dogs go absolutely crazy for them. You want one? You want one? Okay, bye. All right. Try and level that up. I think that's about it. M. Watson, 1972, has contributed $2 and said, sorry, I don't talk much, but I learn much. Thank you. Well, that's nice. Thank you. Chris Kingan has contributed $20. That's very kind. Says, Carey, I just want to continue to support you and your channel. As you may already know, I'm a fellow tech. I love the idea of fixing up older systems to donate to those in need, and I'm getting inspired to do this as well. Wonderful. That's great. I think the world needs more people like you and like us now more than ever. Essential Working Too Hard contributed $5. Says, thank you, Carey, for being you. I'm always learning something from your streams. Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that you see value in it. SSK has contributed $5. Says, my GTX 1070 is 3 years old. It's fine, but other experts recommend to take it apart and replace the thermal paste after 6 years or so. What is your opinion? Well, I mean, if you're somebody who enjoys taking things apart and are willing to risk breaking it because it'll be an excuse to buy a new one, have at it. If money is tight, there's nothing wrong with the card. Regardless of how old it is, there's nothing to be fixed. And if it breaks and you're going to be sad and you don't have the money to replace it, then you'd have been better off leaving it alone and you'd have a working card. Sorry, I didn't realize how zoomed out that was. Make whatever decision's right for you, but understand that a card that runs cooler isn't running better. The only time temperature should come into play is if you're overclocking. If you're not overclocking or pushing the card beyond its design, the way it was engineered, there's nothing for you to fix or to improve. It's only if you're trying to make it better than it came, in which case it's often cheaper to just buy a new modern one that's faster. 2070 is a lot faster than a 1070. So that being said, what's a reasonable amount of time a video card should last? Should you have a 1070 for 6 years? Is that even feasible that it's going to meet your needs? If it's 3 years old now, do you honestly think you're still going to have that card 3 years from now? Because if you're the kind of person that, for whatever reason, you're running a graphics card that's 6 years old, that would suggest to me that you don't have a lot of money. And if you don't have a lot of money, I wouldn't go tearing into my only graphics card that's so important to me that I've had it for 6 years. I would leave it alone. But that's me. Some people really enjoy the process of taking things apart. But understand, if you do that, you will accept the consequences and the benefits. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that you're going to break it. However, you do open up the opportunity for that to happen. If you leave it alone, it will probably last longer. The fascination with temperature, whether it's a CPU or a video card, is fascinating to me. Your CPU and graphics card are not going to last you any significant period of time longer. I mean, this technology will easily last 70 years. So if by running it hot, it cuts it in half to 35 years, it's still way past its useful lifespan. So heat isn't going to make anything, or reducing the heat isn't going to make it better. If you're operating within the temperature range it was designed to run, it doesn't run any better if the temperature is cooler. If the range is 30 degrees to 100 degrees centigrade and you're running at 88, who cares? And if you're running at 68 or 48, it's still running exactly the same. You're just poisoning your mind with completely irrelevant information that doesn't matter in reality, fixated on what some software is telling you that you're choosing to believe despite not having any problems to fix. When you have a problem and you want to come in here and tell us what the problem is, they'll be more than happy to guide you to a solution. But you're trying to prevent a problem, and in doing so, could be creating a problem. Think about that. Well, I guess the dogs are thirsty. I just wanted to see if there was any other comment with regards to that. 3600 we were talking about, and what defined hot? My friend Ron says you got me crying over Jake. He's a good boy. Jake too. I'm just still looking through the chat. What was this, Stuart? I can't find it now. Justin Pill says, I just subbed to your channel. Your channel is awesome. Well, thank you, Justin. Welcome in. Hope we see more of you in the future. Marco says, I sent in a contribution and I'm not blue. I'm still gray. Okay, you're blue now. Sometimes you gotta, pull on my shirt a little bit. Say, hey, I'm standing over here. I'm walking over here. Is now a good time to build a PC or should I wait? Well, the problem is with parts. Some parts are particularly difficult to get. If the if you can get the parts, you're not going to get a great deal probably. Like the price wise on solid state drives aren't the best they've been. RAM's been okay. Motherboards are getting harder and harder to find. Some CPUs are, like I mentioned, I couldn't get the 3300X. I can't get the 10900K. I can't find them. But I got a great deal on some 9700Ks. So it depends what you want to build. In general, no, it's not a good time because it depends what you want to build. And most times it doesn't matter if this was normal, like if we weren't in this pandemic, whatever you want, low end, mid end, high end, it'd be fine. But now, if you want to build the right thing where parts are available and the prices aren't extreme, then it could be a good time to build. But overall, in general, no, it's not a good time because parts are so hard to get. And what parts are available, many of them are a bit um, jacked up in price for no good reason other than because they can. What's the 10700K like? It's still in the box. I don't know yet. But I do have the 10700K and a Z490 board. So that'll be an upcoming build once I get these repairs out of the way. And I also have a build for Thomas Beckenstow that I've got to get completed for him as well. So I'm a little bit backed up, but that's nothing new, right? I'm still looking for the response from Stuart, and I'm not seeing it. He says the temps, here it is, temps were consistently 80 to 85 degrees whilst gaming. I think you're absolutely right about creating the problem. I'm new to building. Okay, so I want to use this as an example. This isn't to belittle, this is not to make fun. This is real world. What I see over and over again are first time builders getting advice from what I call extremists. People think about the kind of person that makes a YouTube video, specifically about computers. There's two reasons why people do this. Well, generally speaking, the main reason people do it is because they're passionate and they want to share that passion. But by being passionate, they also have a lot more knowledge and experience than the average Joe, right? So it's two very different extremes. You've got the passionate enthusiast who's way up here with delidding and overclocking and liquid cooling, custom open loops. And then you've got this person that says, wow, that's really neato. That's what the kids say these days, isn't it? And I want to do that too. And they try to jump They try to make that leap from here to here. And it sounds great in your head, and the person up here saying, oh, it's super easy to get up here. But you have to have some experience. If you're building a computer for the very first time, don't start with anything over the top. Build something moderate, not too complicated. Build your self-confidence and get some experience so that when you build something next time, it'll present a little bit more of a challenge for you, and you'll have some experience. Nothing replaces experience. There's no video I can make that'll teach you how to ride a bicycle with 2 wheels. At some point, you have to sit on the bicycle and kind of learn the balance. I can't explain it. Nobody can. I can tell you about how fun it is to ride a bicycle, and I can show you some extreme, unicycle that's 12 feet off the ground and how fun it is to ride. But if you've never ridden a bicycle before, I don't think you should start with a 12-foot unicycle. It may not end well for you, and it might discourage you towards the whole bicycle thing. So we have these extremists, and they're making videos because they're extremists, because they're so passionate. And if you're not an extremist, you shouldn't be following what they're saying and doing. You need to work your way up to that in steps. They didn't wake up one day and become an extremist. They've done this from years and years and years of working with computers. You can't, we want to skip through all the experience and go right to the top. But life doesn't work that way. So the other reason people will make videos as a career, to say, if a company will pay me to sit here and talk about their products, that's an easy job. I know people that work road construction in 115-degree weather in Phoenix. You're out there in the heat, physical labor, cars are whizzing by, darn near hitting you every 5 minutes. Pays pretty good, but I don't want to work that hard. Neither one of those content creators necessarily has your best interest at stake. So what I'm trying to do here on this channel is to sort of bring reality back and to be realistic about what you should expect you to be able to accomplish the first time you set out to build. Start with a pretty basic build. Go with a mid-range machine. Get some experience under your belt and build your confidence through that experience so that you can take on the next thing. Don't start with a liquid cooler and RGB lighting, at least not something too extreme. Like if you've got an RGB fan or something, that's fine, but don't go all out on your first. Do what you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying if I was you, take small bites. Don't try and shove the whole pie in your mouth. Start with small bites. Taste it. See if you like it before you invest a ton of money and a ton of time. And ideally, you'll like those tastes and you'll be successful and you'll build your confidence. And so the next system you build, or upgrade what you've got in a few months' time and start building. Don't realistically expect yourself to be down here one day and up here the next. It doesn't work like that. So what ends up happening is these YouTube channels will talk about how they've faced these challenges that you're facing years and years and years ago. Long time ago. They've forgotten about them. Now their focus is on lowering their temps because they've run out of things to do. What else can I do? Well, I'm going to try and lower my temps. I would prefer that my temps weren't 90 degrees when it's working hard. I would prefer I could get that down to 80. Why? I don't know, because I've got all this experience doing everything else. So that's something to do, right? It's a challenge. So now you got a first-time builder who builds a decent machine, not super high-end from the sounds of it. 3600 is a mid-range build. It sounds like a good first-time build experience. But now you're seeing temps in the 80 to 85 degree range when you're gaming, which is perfectly normal. It is as it is intended to operate. It is not doing anything it's not supposed to be doing. There is no problem to fix here. You're not getting blue screens or crashes or reboots. It's all just running fine, but you have your mind, what I call, it's poisoned because you have toxic information which is creating a delusion, defying reality. Your reality is you have a working computer that you built. And the reality is it's working as it was designed and engineered to work. But you have information, just information, that has nothing to do with reality from an expert or somebody who is long past the building a system is no big deal. They could do it blindfolded. So now their focus and concentration to challenge themselves even further is to try to bring these temperatures down because they can, not because they have to. And now you think, oh, my system's running too hot because they just did a whole video where the guy's system was running that hot. And he did a whole video on what he did. And I keep saying he because it's usually a he. I don't think there's many female technicians that would think this way. This is a male thing. Males do this more often than females. Well, let's give it more power. The whole Tim Allen grunting. It was a dated reference, but regardless, it still fits the sort of male attitude. And if you have the money and you find that entertaining, I broke a few pins off my CPU that's only 2 days old and I just lost, what is that, $200-300. Lesson learned. Good, fine, whatever. I mean, it's still a bargain as far as lessons go. A semester of community college is going to cost you a lot more than that in electronics. And probably for a lesson that won't stay with you as long. You'll remember that lesson. You won't do it again. So it's not that there's anything regretful, other than that may not have been your intent. Your intent might have been to build a machine, save some money, and have a good experience. And and you did, and then you ruined it. It was like you did everything right, and then for some reason, somebody convinced you that it wasn't right, even though it was. And then you went to fix something that wasn't broken, and then you broke it. It's very, very common. I see it all the time. If there was one video that I could convey to people as a disclaimer that they should have to play in front of every YouTube tech channel, is to identify this is not something you have to do. We're not fixing a problem here. We're trying to challenge ourselves based on our experience, and this is the level that we're at. And that for those of you at home, this doesn't apply to you. I wish that disclaimer was on the videos, but because they're not, it's up to you to identify the information that's being provided as to what applies to you and what does not apply to you. And since content creators have no idea who their viewers are, what their viewers' experience is, or where their viewers are located, we don't know what parts are available. We don't know your experience level, what you're capable of, or what your challenges are. So you still have to do your own due diligence to weed through all the nonsense and the noise and to identify what I call the diamonds in the garbage bin. Like, I see the internet as a big dumpster fire. It's just filled with junk and crap and garbage. But in that garbage, in that dumpster, there is a diamond. There are several. But they don't necessarily jump out and land in your lap. You've got to dig through. You've got to get your hands dirty. And you've got to go, well, that's worthless. Somebody else might be saying, hey, this is the greatest piece of trash you ever had. It's trash. There's no great trash. But there are people that will try to convince you there is. Don't buy it, man. Don't buy the trash. And by buy it, I mean don't believe into it. Don't sell yourself short of being treated like an idiot. Rise up. be a critical thinker and ask yourself, what's the risk? What's the benefit? Is it worth it? For me, not for you, not for anybody else, just for yourself. Is it worth it? And unfortunately, these content creators are so wrapped up in themselves that they fail to acknowledge they weren't born with this information that they have. Excuse me. Okay, sorry about that. So, YouTube content creators may argue that it's not their responsibility to provide disclaimers and that they hold no accountability to what you do with the information they provide, that they don't mean any ill will necessarily or malicious intent to cause you harm, but they also won't take responsibility for the harm that might come from following their advice. And that's what gets me upset is there's no accountability, there's no accountability, there's no responsibility, and there's no liability from a YouTube content creator. So if you were paying a teacher, if you went to school and that teacher instructed you to take that cooler off and didn't instruct you properly or for the right reason, you could have legal recourse. But on YouTube, you don't. And so that's why I say there's so much trash. There's so much information that comes with consequences to you for accepting the information, but no consequences whatsoever for the person who's providing it. That's not the way the IT business works. You cannot get into the IT tech business. You cannot be an MSP and then not be held accountable, responsible, or liable for the job you were hired to do. If a company's paying me to do backups, to do off-site proper backups, and I take the backup off-site and leave it in my car gets broken into and the backup is stolen and it's not encrypted and now all the customer's data is out, I'm liable for that. If the customer shows up to work in the morning and their building has been burglarized or has caught fire or the whole place flooded, I'm expected to be able to recover their data so that they can be back and operational and help their customers ASAP in another location. We'll get them set up and get them running. And if I don't have that backup, I'm held liable. The lack of liability is really troubling. And I want you to consider that when you're advised to do anything inside of your computer, that you actually have a reason to do it. I'm having blue screen errors. I'm having random reboots. Have a reason, not just because a piece of software showed you a number and they said that number's not good. That's a load of crap. I'm sorry, that's a load of crap. You're just poisoning your mind with information that's completely unnecessary, totally avoidable, and creating a problem where there wasn't. And the people that perpetuate this are typically the enthusiasts. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but they're just not taking under consideration that you're going to have a lot of viewers that don't yet have the knowledge that you have, that you didn't get, you weren't born with it. Somebody had to teach us, and we've all made mistakes. The difference is, was the mistake your idea, or did somebody online give you that idea? If the mistake was your idea, own up to it. That's fine. But if somebody online said you should do that and then you did it and it caused you financial harm or disruption, you should have recourse to that. I really truly believe you should have recourse to that. But at this point, there is none. So be very cautious for information that you get online for free or anywhere for free, quite frankly. I wanted to see my sister made a great thumbnail for a video of me coming out of a dumpster holding a diamond, and it's kind of a cartoon caricature. Um, I want to see if I have it here on my NAS, because that's where that comes from. It's something I've said often, and apparently I need to keep saying it because it's not going to go away. Anybody can create a YouTube channel. I mean, look at me, I've got one. So clearly, the barrier to entry's not very high. There's a short joke in there. No, 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 no. I swear I had it in here, but I can't find it now. I guess not. Well, I'm sure I've got it on the office computer. But if you see it and you're like, "What is that?" It's me crawling out of a dumpster, holding a diamond, and it's perfect. It's my sister did a really good job on it, and I'm sure if I haven't used it in a video, I will use it again. Wes Cordell has contributed $5. Says, Carey, I like your videos. They're better than TV reruns. I'll take it. Thank you. Rochester NY87 has contributed $5. Says, I just emailed you, Carey. When you have a chance, let me know what you think. I will do. I will do. SSK has contributed $10. Says, thanks for answering my question. I never overclock anything. I play games 4 to 5 hours a day with a maximum 1440p resolution. He's referring to the 1070 graphics card that's 3 years old and wondering if we're going back to that. He says, I'm just curious, that's all, and I'm not into taking things apart. Leave it alone. Remember, if you have a problem and you want help solving it, we're here to help you. But if you just want to make up a problem and fix a problem that doesn't exist, we all have better things to do. OG Gaming has contributed $20. Says, thanks for being you. Oh, thanks, OG Gaming. My company Tech has contributed $20. He says, like you, I've been very busy due to C19. Haven't been able to watch live in quite some time. Here's to support the channel and the excellent tips on being an MSP. Right on. Well, thank you. Again, thank you for supporting the channel. And, you know, when I started the business, I didn't have anything to go off of. You have to understand my technique and my perspective comes from being a very young man when the tech was also very young. And that you can see that as an advantage or you can see it as a disadvantage. It gives me a unique perspective and where we were and where we are, right? I'm not coming into this already built. I helped build it. It's one of the things that bothers me the most is sometimes a viewer doesn't think because I'm not young enough that I'm not connected to the technology in the way younger people are. They don't seem to acknowledge that I helped build that very technology. I was a part of the generation that resulted in smartphones, that resulted in, and I'm not saying I'm responsible for it, I'm saying I was a part of it. I've always been a part of it. It's all I've known all my life. You'll never meet a bigger geek than me. My passion for technology and my connection to it is deep in my soul. And when I started this, there were no books, there were no school classes, there was no formal education you could get, there was no internet. You had to figure stuff out on your own. And I think it's a valuable skill. Because if your skill relies on you having Google, and without Google you don't have any technical skill, I would question that you are any more than a robot just reading something on a screen and doing it. You, the measure of a tech to me is in the creativity and the imagination of how to solve the problem and the enjoyment of that. And when I meet people that are creative and imaginative in finding solutions to problems, these are people I like immediately. And I'm not just talking about computer problems. It could be cars stuck in the dirt. It could be I'm having problems with pigeons on my porch. And they come up with this really unique and creative solution. And you think, wow, that's simple and elegant and inexpensive and easy to implement or what have you. And it solves the problem without, some extravagant, complex, expensive, throw money at it kind of a deal. I grew up without money. And so we had to make things work or do without. So when I come at a computer problem, my first instinct is not to go to Google and it's not to ask somebody else. My first instinct is to experience the problem. Let me see the problem. Show it to me. Okay, let me understand it the way I understand it, and let me try and fix it the way I want to try and fix it. And I'm not going to get it right the first time, because if I got it right the first time every time, there'd be no challenge in it. It would be boring and I would want to do something else. Life needs challenges. And I've talked about this before. If there was a Google page that you could just solve every problem, I would never want to go there. Not me. You can go there. And when I show people how I do things, sometimes I get viewers that attack me. They say I'm doing it wrong, or they say um, it took me too long. That if I'm a real tech, I shouldn't have taken that long. And regardless of what they think, doesn't change reality that that's my process that I just openly shared with you for no cost. I didn't tell you you had to follow it, and I didn't tell you I'm God's gift to computer techs. I never said that. Some problems can be very easy that take me a while to solve. And other problems can be very complicated that I can solve faster than anybody else. In fact, I would argue that the simpler a problem is, in many cases, the harder it is for me to solve. Because if anything, I overthink it. It doesn't make me a bad technician. At the end of the day, if you've solved your customer's problem and met that customer's expectation in the time frame and the expense, you've done your job. And it is not for any viewer to tell me whether or not I qualify. Furthermore, I have a proven business. I have a documented history of being an author, as a tech journalist, as a radio show host, and as a professional in this business that is publicly available. I'm not just a loudmouth with a fake name criticizing other people who's actually done nothing. So that is a little discouraging sometimes. And then I just ultimately end up feeling really bad for these people because they must be very sad and miserable to just listen to somebody share their experience, almost 30 years of experience for free, and then criticize it as though they paid something for it, or that I've ripped them off, or that I'm telling them what to do. So many people interpret my videos as me telling them what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing with you how I do it. Nothing more. If you don't like it, don't like it. What do you want me to do about it? I'm not here to please you. I'm just here to share with you my experience. And if you see value in that, welcome. And if you don't, leave. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm not here for a specific person. I'm not making videos for somebody other than me. I like my videos. And it is awfully discouraging how little people can have an effect negatively on how small you feel. Like they're little and they want to make you feel smaller than they are. And they're already tiny. They're tiny little people. Their minds are tiny. They're just tiny little people. And they try to make you feel smaller than them. And I don't know why. I'm not doing anything to them. So know that we live in a society where this is rampant. Know that the internet is sort of a free-for-all where people have this false sense of anonymity and authority that they don't have, and try to instill their will on you, even if it's just to get a reaction. And it's something I'm still, I'm weeding out the bad actors. They get banned and they can't participate in the chat. They don't get the benefits either. They don't get the giveaways. They don't get the friendships. They miss out on this amazing community. And they don't understand that they're doing that to themselves for no reason. They're not changing anything. They've made no change to the world. They didn't shut my channel down. They're not stopping me from making videos. All they did was silence themselves so that they couldn't be heard anymore because nothing they had to say was worth listening to. And if you want to be a content creator, just know that no matter what you do, if I'm giving away $100 bills, there's going to be somebody telling me I'm a horrible person and that I'm doing it wrong. And that person saying it will be some anonymous user nobody's ever heard of, but they think that their opinion should matter to you. I don't know why they think that. It's almost like a perverse delusion of superiority. And it's frustrating because the power of helping another person is far greater than the insults. The insults will never be so bad as to not make it worth it to get one compliment, right? For somebody to say, hey, your information helped me. Hey, I appreciate the free content. I appreciate the interacting in the chat room. It just takes one of those. And if there's 15 others insulting me, then we'll just ban 15 others and get rid of them. Why are they here? This is terrible. Give me a second helping of this awful food. Give me a third helping. I want to complain about it some more. These are tiny little people, sad, tiny little people trying to make you feel small so that they can feel taller. It's bizarre. Remember, I grew up with the technology. I grew up with this technology. I've helped to create it. So it's interesting to me to see how it's being used in ways that my generation overall did not consider. Because we would have put safety gaps in there and we would have put tracking mechanisms in there to ensure things like spam could be accounted for, abuse and harassment could be accounted for. And unfortunately, we were a bit naive and we thought that everybody would appreciate the magic of what is the internet and the interconnectivity of computers. And it turns out there's a lot of really bad people looking to take advantage of other people who've done nothing to them with no motivation other than they can make some money easily by scamming people that are gullible. We didn't think about that when we were making the technology. And now it's going to be hard to fix it because of the existing infrastructure. But this change will come, I promise you. The TCP/IP in and of itself is flawed. I mean, just the fact that we ran out of IP addresses is the first. We didn't know. We didn't know it was going to be that big. So I can assure you, based on my experience and what I've seen, this will eventually be addressed. And this anonymity is going to be very difficult to achieve without some knowledge of how the technology works. Like, it's not going to be as easy as it is today. That will happen. And it's going to happen because it has to. Because the problem is getting worse. And the more people abuse it, the more motivation there is for somebody to come along and solve that problem. Say, hey, are you tired of being harassed on the internet? Are you tired of the abuse? Well, I've got this product right here that can put a stop to it. And the guy who comes up with that or the gal that comes up with that first is going to make a lot of money. I saw trending on Twitter, and I want you to listen very carefully. Trending on Twitter yesterday was rest in peace, R.I.P. Jeff Bezos. Now, Jeff Bezos did not die. Yet, this fake, false imaginary information was trending because apparently they don't like the way Amazon is profiting as though they profit differently from any other corporation in America, that they don't understand net worth versus personal wealth. They don't understand business. And so therefore Jeff Bezos is dead to me. Okay, well, who are you and why does Jeff Bezos care? You know what I mean? Like, what do you know about business? And who are you comparing them against? GE or Verizon? What did they do that's so different from what Apple has done with regards to not paying taxes? Apple's done all the same stuff. So their way of getting back, of having their little tiny voice trying to make Jeff Bezos feel small, is to create a false news statement, hashtag RIP Jeff Bezos. And this makes sense how? Now, think about this. People are using Twitter to help define their political position. They're taking information that may not be true and then reacting to it as though it were true. The first thing I did when I saw RIP Jeff Bezos was look at the news sites. Before I responded to it, when did he die? How did he die? Oh, did it just happen? Let's go to TMZ, because TMZ, they'll be the first one to publish stuff like that. Nothing. Well, he's not dead. What's this about? Well, he's dead to me. Well, who cares? Who asked you? Why is this trending? Who's learning anything from it? If you learned anything from this, it's that you cannot trust information on the internet, and especially not from Twitter. Especially if something's on Twitter, it's probably a 50% chance it's not true. Or it's based on an agenda that meets a certain political viewpoint, not necessarily an unbiased overview. So it's sort of junk food of information. Twitter is the junk food of information online. And while there might be some nutrients in there, there might be some good stuff. We're right back to YouTube again with no accountability, no liability, no responsibility. Saying somebody is dead when they're not dead, and then saying you're justified for doing it is sick. It's sick. But with no accountability, you've got to be very cautious of the information that's being provided to you over the internet. I just don't know how to emphasize that enough. And if you believe it, that's your fault. So at the end of the day, what decisions you make are your consequences, not mine. And I advise all of you to do your due diligence if you're going to react to something or you're going to take on a project, like I say, building a computer. Understand what your responsibilities and understanding are, and understand that we have a community here that can help you if you run into some trouble that's unexpected, an innocent mistake has been made, or maybe you got a bad part. We'll help you. But we're doing that out of kindness, not out of obligation. And it's all a learning process. If you're willing to learn and you're willing to accept your consequences, we'll help you. But a lot of other places won't. They'll have you believe Jeff Bezos is dead. They won't make a statement to let you know he isn't. They'll let you believe that having a temp at 85 degrees centigrade is a problem and that you should solve it. But if you run into a problem, too bad, we're not here to help you. We are here to help you, and that's the difference. So with that, I think I'll wrap it up. Thanks you guys so much for watching the video today and for hanging out with me in the chat. And thanks for the contributions. Again, Joseph Hawkins just contributed $4 New Zealand and said, Carey, good watching again, great people on here. Well, and you're part of that. Thank you, Joseph. And thanks to Wes Cordell and Rochester NY87, SSK OG Gaming, My Company Tech, M. Watson 1972, Chris Kingen, Essential Working Too Hard, SSK and OG Gaming in Rochester, New York again, twice. There's also John Young and Michael Dane, Paul O'Brien, Bear Paw, Tiger Claw Nation, Leonard and BV Customs Cobriette, David R. Officer, Marta, James A. Holland Jr., Timothy Wers, Evident Savant with that $115 contribution. Thank you so much. David Starbuck, thank you for all your generosity as well. And M. Watson, 1972 again. Abdul Azim Patel, thank you for your friendship and your continued support. Stephen Schumacher and Tom Jackson, and Rick Hubbard. That's all the contributions during this stream. And I just see Daniel Pexton just contributed $5. You guys help keep this channel independent and free from being a mouthpiece to corporate sponsorship. And I appreciate that very much. And I'll do everything I can to try to be as open and honest with you. That doesn't get me in trouble politically. Equality for everybody, no matter what. That's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks you guys so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.